Hello, hello. Welcome back to Unapologetically Wild with me, Katie Sontag. Today's topic is very juicy, and it has been something that's been popping up in my world consistently. Now, I always love these episodes because when it's so alive in my consciousness, I know it is literally alive in the collective consciousness who are going to receive this message. Like, of course, right? So, the big thing that has been literally smacking me in the face, like not even slightly, you know how when you get lessons, sometimes they like tickle you with a feather, or the other times they might be like hit you with like a brick, and then you get smacked like you're getting hit by a Mack truck. This lesson has been a Mack truck. And not something I haven't been through before, but don't we love when divine lessons come through that they have a different depth or they come in a different way just to really make sure that we're learning our lesson. And this is a big one that I think everyone in life actually has to conquer probably multiple times, especially if you're like me and you're a people pleaser, especially if you're like me and you're a good girl. So let me paint a picture. And then I'll tell you what the word is, and you'll honestly get it through this painting of a picture. So there's a couple of different ways this has shown up for me. And it's shown up in a recent job that I just received, or I'm starting to do. And it's shown up in my business all the time. That's not a new one. It's shown up in general life, in friends, family, all the things, right? So, and it's a big one that when in relationship shows up for me massively as well. Just everything, guys. Let's just say everything. So in business, a lot of the time, my love language, if anyone doesn't know my love language, it's giving time. That is literally my love language. I will give you mountains and mountains of time. If I love you and I feel safe with you, that is literally how I show you how much I love you. And this is great until you give too much of your time, energy, and your capacity. And I used to look at this and think that it was other people penetrating my space, energy, capacity, all these things. And then I remember when I started learning about spirituality and how we could protect ourselves. Now, I think this is really, really important, especially energetically, however, also in a practical sense. Because when you protect yourself, you're actually not allowing things to penetrate your exterior armor. Now, this can be detrimental in some cases, however, it's also very needed in this particular thing. And I know you're like, what is that? What is she talking about? If you've already got it, proud of you. Please put it in the comments. So it's a lot of the time we think that it's other people. And don't get me wrong, they play their part of the fact of they'll keep bringing us or texting us or, keep engaging. However, it is our choice whether we keep engaging back. And it's also our choice to make a decision to be like, thank you, I've got to go. This is my time. I'm going to honor it. And I think for so many years, I used to think that, I just had to give my time because that's how I showed love and everyone else would reciprocate it and I would be fine and I would burn out, not realizing that, time is energy, it's capacity, it's all the things that I need, especially to run a business. And that's been a really beautiful learning curve. And even for relationships, friendships, partners, all the things. If you don't have capacity and you don't have energy and you don't have time to spend with them and cultivate a relationship, then that's not going to help you in any of those things, business especially. So, and some of you know what I'm talking about. The big thing I want to speak about today, the big reveal, if you haven't already cottoned on, is boundaries. Now, I've spoken about this many times on my podcast, so please go back and have a look. But this has just been hitting me in the face. So I'm going to go dead on into this, and I'm going to be really brutal about it because I had to be brutal with myself. So recently, what hit was I started a new job. I'm doing different things in business. Things are expanding, they're growing and moving, and it's amazing, right? And I'm making new friends and all of these things are happening. There's events on and I'm, being a part of everything. And I started to get really frustrated because, one, I'm giving up all my time, even though in business, obviously, you give time for money. And eventually you hope to also not do that so that you can make money without your time. However, it is one way to trade your time for money. And when you go and then balance that with army, with the job that I just, got into. And then when people constantly keep messaging you during the day and you're like, I'm not getting paid for this, or this is not actually helping in any area of my life, right? So this is actually all starting to seep in as one. And there's different layers to this. So with a job, to me, you get paid for the hours you work. And then if people seep into your time, that's not how that works. And I'm really big with this with the people that work with me in my business too. I don't expect them. We have a contractual agreement and that is exactly what we follow. And I'm really big on it because over my life, I've given so much extra and not really got anything in return and then been frustrated and angry, or people have wanted me to do more and say like, and this is a really big red flag. I have to say this because it happened recently where someone was like, oh, but it's benefiting you. And I was like, how do you know what the fuck is benefiting me? You don't know who I am or what actually benefits me. You know nothing about me. And this is a really big one. And the same with, and I've used this before too, no pressure. When you say that, you're almost putting pressure on someone. And like, I'm not here to say that I'm perfect because I have honestly fucked up some of these things myself and had to learn the hard way. But this was like a deeper level of initiation of being like, my time is worth a lot more than what other people value it as, right? I believe it is. And no one's going to stop messaging me if I keep replying. And people are going to keep engaging, right? Because that's exactly what they do. So I decided that I put my day in blocks, which is so much better. Also a lot less frustrating because I don't get annoyed by getting a message or being asked to do a task that's outside of my scope, which I also stand up for myself for. So I've had to have some really big conversations because I run my different business so differently. And, I'm in another business and also trying to work out how that looks, also being an employee, also doing army stuff, also balancing all these things, right? Because when you start to balance things, it is about capacity, which I spoke about a few weeks ago, but it's about boundaries. The only way you can keep things going, same with friendships, relationship, all the things, is you need to have boundaries that honor you. And when other people don't have boundaries, they are not going to hold them and hold yours. So the biggest thing is you have to hold your own boundaries and you have to know what they are for you. Because here's the thing, you keep engaging, they're going to keep messaging you back. If you keep allowing them to have your time, your energy, and all of these things, they're going to take it for free. People are going to take it for free in any capacity, right? Especially if you have really powerful, amazing energy. Or you're a really good worker, or you just keep giving and they don't have to do anything for it, right? It's a really big thing. And it's actually something that I really want to speak to because for so many years of my life, I gave people my energy, my time, and you're going to say like, people see it as kindness. And then people just took and took and took and took and took. And what that meant was I was burnt out on the side. Does not affect them one bit. Now, I've been in multiple relationships where I've had to really grip this up. And I'm sure this is going to hit me again in some capacity, right? And I've had to end friendships and I've had to, leave jobs and I've had to do certain things to make sure this is thing. Here's the catch. You have to look at the pros and the cons, right? And you really have to make a decision. Where does this sit? Whatever it is, okay? So if it's a job, pardon me. If it's a job, like if it's not maybe you're not getting monetarily, maybe it's not great for you, right? But maybe you've gone into it and you're like, I need visibility in my business. This recently was the reason I went out and got a PT job, was so I got visibility in the local community so that I could meet women, so that I could support and funnel into my business. I'm going to be completely honest here. I told them about it. They knew I had a business. They know I work with women. They know it's a beautiful funnel. So I did that for me strategically. Now, if I was to look at that job in a different way, I wouldn't have taken it because there were so many extra things that I didn't know when I first went into it. There's so many other pieces here, right? Negotiating and all the things at the start and understanding the money and what does that look like for time for money and how do you see that? And that's a really big thing. If you're negotiating contracts, you need to be crystal clear on what you're getting paid, what your actual job role is, and if things are added in the end, you need to have that tough conversation. Because here's what I've learned. A lot of people don't consider every aspect of what you're doing. So I'll give you an example. Someone maybe, okay, if I was to get my VA, say I want to buy some, I don't know, printing. She doesn't live in this country, so this would be a really weird example. But imagine she was here and I was like, can you go out and buy some printing or I've printed something, can you go out and buy it, right? First of all, I have to consider that I have to give her a card to buy it. I can't expect her to have the money. That's ridiculous. That's not how this works. I also need to consider petrol, her car depreciation, all of these things, right? So I should have a company car so that she can take that, or my car so that I take on the extra, monetary concerns. Then there's also paying her for her time and her energy, and maybe that's putting her out or making sure it's within her work hours. These are the things that people don't always consider. There's always these other things that you have to, and as a business owner, I've had to learn this, right? And this has actually been great for the other side. Also for me having employees, because it means that I think of more things that they need to be compensated for, because I would want to be compensated for that, because that is something that I would be outlaying that's outside of my job and not my job commitment. Right? Her doing that for my business would not be that. Me doing that for someone else's business would not, you would include those things. So you've got to know what you're actually advocating for. And that's a boundary. That is a boundary, because it's like, I know what I'm getting paid. I know what I'm worth. I know what I'm getting out of this. I know why I'm here, and I know if it's still serving me. So you need to make sure you know exactly these parameters, right? When are you working? How much are you working? All these things. And when you know that, you can have the conversation. You can keep stepping into your power and setting those boundaries. And if they then go over that, or let's say, you keep getting messages or whatever, you just don't respond. Personally, I don't. I turn off my notifications. And I'm like, if it's really important, which it can't be, I'm, either in a casual position or my VA, there's never anything I'm going to send her that she can't wait till she works for an hour tomorrow, because that is our contractual agreement. If I then wanted to change that, I absolutely would go in negotiation with her on how that would look. These are big boundaries in business, in a workplace. You have to have these conversations. You have to weigh up the pros and cons. You have to look at what is actually serving you, because here's the thing, it eats you up. It doesn't eat them up. It affects you. It doesn't affect them. You take that home to your family, to your friends, to all of these people, to have these discussions, and you're like, this frustrates me. It's not actually serving me. It's not serving your friendships or your relationships either. Not saying that, you can't go and see your friends and have these conversations. There is a lot of, ability to talk to people and be like, cool, this is working for me. This is why, or these are my other reasons I took the job, right? That's also really important. But boundaries come in when people try and open that up, and they try and say like, oh, this is the way we do things, or all these things, or even, oh, but I need to talk to you all the time. Oh, but I actually had a client the other day, super interesting on this, but have someone go like, but I have to call you, was a family member. And she was like, actually, can you go and journal or do some sort of like process to get it out first? Because she just trauma dump, right? A lot of people do this. I had someone do it to me the other day where they just trauma dump and they trauma dump and they trauma dump. Nobody's here for a trauma dump. Many, many years ago, I literally would have taken that on and tried to fix it and help them. I'm so grateful the other day I did not. I didn't stop it. And that is where we get to, you get to sit with the boundary for yourself there. I didn't stop them. But for the first time, I realized that I did not take any of it on energetically or physically. And I did not actually do anything about it. So that's huge. Even though the boundary for me next time to look at it would be like, I'm okay. Thanks. Thanks, but no thanks. So it's like looking at boundaries is always about renegotiating as well with yourself, because it's got to be what's going to serve you. Because what served me years ago probably wouldn't serve me now. And to be honest, I wouldn't have even stood up for myself years ago. A lot of time boundaries is actually standing up for what you need. And that's a real crux for us as women, because if we're used to giving, it's really hard to turn around and say like, I can't give this to you. And this is really important for me to hold this boundary. So you need to find out what works for you in this space. And for me, sometimes it's muting chats. For me, sometimes it's going back and renegotiating, having a new conversation. And these are hard. I'm not going to sit here and say they're easy. Years ago, I would have probably avoided it. But a boundary is really important. It's about saying to your family that they can't just come over whenever they feel like it and they have to call. That's a boundary for me. Because this is my sacred space, right? And it's really, really important for you to set your boundaries. Because what happens when you set a boundary, and this is the most important thing, is that when you set it, it can take people a few times to get used to it. Because some people are like, oh, but maybe you've set a boundary before and I've done this. And then people just like, oh, maybe she won't hold it. And then they try and like go against it. And you're like, no. I said this was my boundary. And you have to stand strong in it. Even if you're shaking, even if you're crying, because let's be real, when we first start putting boundaries down, it can be a really nerve-wracking, huge thing for our nervous system to hold as well. Because for so many years, we've let them get away with it. And that is not a them problem. That's an us problem for not actually advocating what we need. And you need to advocate for what you need. No one else is ever going to advocate for you. No one else knows what you need. No one can read your mind. And if you don't say what you need, people will not do it. Period. Like full stop, exclamation point. People will not do it. One, because they have no idea that you need that. Two, they can't read minds. I mean, we are psychic here, but not in that capacity. So you need to be honest. And there will be times, I'll preface this, that maybe you can see that it's easier, and for me this is 99% of the time, for me to make the boundary. It may not have to be communicated. It may have to be communicated. That's where you also get to see the line. Because sometimes not replying is enough communication. Sometimes I think we need to go into this whole thing where we're like, I'm going to sit down with you and I'm going to give you everything I need. And don't get me wrong, those conversations absolutely have to be had. And though, sometimes it can be as much as not replying or leaving a group chat, or there's probably more things, but right now my brain is not thinking of them. There are different things and tactics you can use that support you and actually will have an effect on people. People will get the message in a different way. You don't just have to go in guns blazing with fucking sword up and your protection on. And also for those woo-woo humans out there who are like me, put your protections on and also ask the universe to support you and your guides and your spirit guides. Because let's be real here, all of you that are my woo-woo ladies, you get it. we also get to and do create the world we live in, literally through our thoughts and through our co-creation with the universe. So ask for them to support you in removing it out of your life if you believe that that's a thing, or ask if it's meant to be, it'll be removed. If it's not, it won't. And it'll stay there, and there'll be a reason for it. Because there's always a bloody reason. And I love this because it's a new learning for me for boundaries. Another stage, another go at actually seeing how I'll advocate for myself. And how do I look at the whole situation? Because here's the other thing when you get stuck in being like, they're doing all these things. You're literally, imagine, normally you see out beyond your peripheries and you're like, I see everything, opportunities, bam, bam, bam. All these things are coming to me. Meh, meh, meh. And all these people are amazing. And all these things, like literally this morning when I was at training, there was a fucking rainbow. Like literally as I walked out and we were finishing at 7 a.m., their 6 a.m. session, there was a fucking rainbow. Like, oh my God, if you don't know signs that life is working exactly as it's meant to, and whoa, that's one of them. Anywho, don't really know where I was going with that. But if you literally ask your guides, they will either remove it or you will learn the lesson. And for me, advocating for myself wasn't a really big thing when I was younger. I sure never did it. That's the truth. So now, knowing that you're so protected and you have so many guides literally with you every day, and if you don't know that, get in touch with me and we'll do a healing and I'll show you where they all are. So they're literally with you. They're like an army. Mine are literally an army. It's wild. And I am so grateful because they literally protect me in every capacity. And if I'm in something where I'm learning, they show me now the big picture. That's what I was talking about before. If you normally can see all the things, got the big peripheries, right? You can see everything, the good, the bad, all these things, right? I don't really like those words, but you get what I mean. Then you actually get this huge overarching view. I like to think of it as like the eagle. So you're like getting perspective. So you don't just look at, what's upsetting you, but you see what's beautiful in your life. And, there's all of these things on the challenges and how they're growing you and all of these things, right? Which is amazing. When you start to just pinpoint, I do this all the time, you know what I mean? Not as much now, but I still come to the point where you're just pinpointing this one thing, right? Like you get so sucked in and you can't look at anything else and it's coming to this point and all of a sudden that's all you talk about and all you see and all that's happening is literally the thing that you don't like that someone else is doing. And it's amazing what happens when you put a boundary in for yourself, for them, whatever, that stops it. And all of a sudden it's amazing how your life opens up again. Because you're no longer concentrating on that. You're looking at all the reasons why you have the job, how it supports your life, your health, how it supports all of these different factors. Maybe your social network, maybe, your business, maybe like all of these things, right? And you start to be like, wow, there's a lot more to this than the thing that I've been focusing on. And it also means that you're no longer focusing on that thing, so you can see all the other wonderful things that are happening in your life. A lot of the time when people get really stuck and they're not making boundaries or looking after themselves, they're literally got this tunnel vision. And with tunnel vision, we know that you don't see everything and you get really, really stuck. It can be depression as well. It can lead to so many other things that actually don't help us in life, right? That cause us to be mentally, physically unwell. And so even the way you speak, words are spells, and if you put them into the universe, it just keeps manifesting. And so if you're still concentrating on this and you're not seeing the bigger picture of why you're there or why you have a business or why you have a relationship or why you're friends with this person, if you then see the bigger picture and you decide that that's a no-go, absolutely get rid of it. Like all for cutting it off and moving on. However, when you're stuck looking at one thing and you don't consider the whole picture, That is where most people end up going down a rabbit hole that they probably aren't loving and are not feeling good in. And that can be a decision that is made out of anger, spite, rage, sadness, all of the things that are low vibration emotions, instead of expansion, joy, happiness, all of these things, right? And I'm not saying every decision is up there, because sometimes we have to get to our lowest point to actually make the choice. But normally by then you've probably looked at all aspects and you probably think, I can make it happen no matter what. Like, I can work this out. And I know it's better on the other side. Most people, it takes a bit to get there. Some people are very good at cutting it off quickly, and you know what? Good on you. Good on you for taking the plunge and going quickly, because there is merit in that as well. But you're always going to come up against the boundary, because here's the thing: what happens when no one makes boundaries and then they just cut it off? You get into that next relationship, you go to maybe your next business, maybe you get that next employee, maybe you go to that next job, and you know what's going to happen? The same thing. Do you know how many people I know who come and tell me the same thing about the next job that they told me about the last one? Because internally they didn't fix anything. They just see the same thing. Do you know how many people lose employees consistently? Because they don't actually find out why they're losing them, and they don't actually want to do what's right for them, although they preach it. That really kills me for people. And then they wonder why they're still in the same position. And so, same with health. You know how many people tell me the same excuse? I also don't care what people's excuses are. Because here's the thing: if you've got one and you want to share it, I'll absolutely listen. However, until you get rid of it, you're not going to move forward. I have had to call myself out on so much shit. I still do it every day with the excuses or the stories or the things I've made up in my head that I think are stopping me from something. Here's what I've learned. Until I get over them, like until I literally get over it, nothing changes. Until I set the boundary and actually honor myself fully and protect myself and know that I have got me 150, 200%. Nobody else has me the way I have me. Nobody knows me the way I know me. So how the fuck can they look after me and protect me with boundaries, with knowing what I need, unless I express it or unless I set it all for myself? Healthy relationships, healthy businesses, healthy workplaces have boundaries. They have clear rules, clear payment systems. There is no ambiguity. I can't even say that word. Oh my gosh. I'm not even going to try. You know what I'm saying, right? There's no confusion. And if there is, you go back into renegotiation and you talk it out, right? Same with clients. When you get new clients, or you just sit and have a conversation and say what your needs are or how they need to be met. Maybe you need to come to a compromise. Sometimes that happens too, right? Sometimes when we're so in it and we, are so focused on what we need, we can also sit and go, all right, there is a way we can both meet this, right? So maybe you want me to work an extra day. I can meet that, but maybe not the day you're asking, but maybe the day that that will work for me, right? So here's the thing. Make sure you honor what you're getting paid. Make sure, and that's fucking huge, hey? And make sure you honor stand up for yourself in your boundaries of what you need in a job, in a business, in your clients. Because here's the other thing: I overgive time in my business. I don't think I went into that before. That's a new boundary for me, right? Because I overgive time, because I love people, that's beautiful and not helping me. So another boundary I get to clear up. When I say that we go from this time to this time, we go from this time to this time. Not from this time to 3 hours later because I'm having fun, which, okay, fine. But you need to understand, for me, that was like, okay, I do get a lot out of this, right? I have the best clients, the best coaching clients, the best one-on-one clients. I love them with my whole heart. So that can be difficult. However, they also get to honor that with me because when I honor it, so do they, for them. And so it's a flow-on effect because what you start to do is when you start to honor your time and you see your worth and you start to actually look after you, other people do it by the fact that they're in your proxy. They're in your leadership. They see you do it, so they do it for themselves. And what that builds is a business, is a relationship, is a friendship where everyone honors everyone in all the right ways. And so what happens is you build this beautiful ecosystem of people who all honor that for themselves, and nobody gets offended because they honor it for them and you honor it for you. And there's nothing about anyone else except what you need or what they need. And you love them that so much, you absolutely will honor that because you know that they'll honor it for you. And you start to build this beautiful friendship and these beautiful people around you that honor it because they love you. And then in turn, you honor it because you love them, and it becomes this most beautiful thing. And that's what I've learned as I get older, and I'm still learning all these things, right? It's not a perfect world. However, these are really big things as women that we need to look at because we don't always do that. I watch men, I think men do it better, if I'm honest. In some capacities. I'll caveat that as well. But I do in jobs and in that sort of world, I have seen that men have done it better. We are givers. We are, people who, especially women with children, they give so much. And I think it's beautiful. And no, I'd love you to give just as much to yourself because it'd be amazing how much more you could give. But I'm not a mum, so I don't understand that. I don't get that level of devotion. I'm sorry, I'm a dog mum, but not a mum of a baby. So it's different. And I won't understand that unless I had children. So I think with that, it's about, as a society, learning how we can give more to ourselves so we can give more to others. And learning that the way we do that is through having very strong boundaries. The only person that knows the boundaries that you need is you. So start to make them and honor them. Don't slip. If you do, it's okay, but pull them back in again. And just see how much time, energy, and freedom you will have from having boundaries. I want you to think about it right now, wherever you are. What is one boundary that would actually significantly change your life? It doesn't have to be big. It can be like me. It can be making sure you're with the client for the time that you say you are. It can be making sure you ask for the right amount of money that you're actually worth. Or tell them that you won't do an extra task unless they add more money or more time. It can be making sure you don't give extra money and time or energy to someone. It can be not replying. It can be making sure you set a time aside for friends and really good people that are going to keep you in a good energy and you get to actually have a good time with it. They're going to call you out. I love my friends who call me out. I need it. So do they. It's love. Not just going to be like, oh, it's okay. We need that too, but sometimes you need someone in your corner to be like, love you, get it, and let's cut this off. And that's what I love also about my clients, because when they come to me, they know it's time for them to make the decision that they're done with living the old way and they're ready to actually fully step into their power and give back to themselves, which in turn means that they're actually have more energy, capacity, and time for the things they truly love or the people they truly love. And themselves. Wild. Anyway, I would love for you to tell me what boundary you're going to set in the comments. Share this with any woman who you know needs to make a boundary. And I would love for you to also share this. Tag me at Unapologetically Wild with Katie on Instagram if you share it. I would love to be tagged. And that's where all my reels go from these incredible podcasts. And please like it, comment, subscribe. I would love to have you as a subscriber so you don't have to, come looking for it. It just, when it comes out, you can see it straight away. That would be amazing. And I hope you have the most magical, magical day. And you set a boundary and you have more energy, time, and capacity for yourself. And I look forward to having you being in your ears again soon. Hope you have a magical day. Keep being unapologetically wild and unapologetically you.